back, guys. I hope that you are doing great. Karibuni sana back to Art and Culture Monday. As promised, this is our first lounge, and we are just continuing our conversation or a discussion that we started last week. And I am not alone on set. I am with one Dr. Susan Mwangi, and it is already too impacting. Yani, we have not even started, but she is full of knowledge. Daktari, karibu sana. How are you doing?
I am very fine. Thank you very much, Karen, for having me here.
Yes.
Guys, my name is Dr. Susan Mwangi. I teach at the Department of History, Archaeology and Political Science at Kenyatta University.
Yes.
I am a mother, I am a mentor, and I am a philanthropist and a believer in good governance.
Yes.
Thank you.
Amazing. I was just telling her, I want to be her when I grow up. Where the lens, the titles, the belief, the courage. Yani, you are just everything that I want to be. And you have told me, what do you want to be?
I'm still young. I am youth. Of course, I have told Karen that when I grow up, I want to be Michelle Obama.
Yes.
Because I believe in ideals of good governance and justice,
yes,
peace and security, and I think that is where globally we need to be going.
Amazing. True. Yeah. Yes, and I believe that good governance is the backbone of any development. When there's good governance, we are going to get there. Today we are talking about curbing violent extremism using art and education. Could you kindly enlighten us kidogo on why art and education, number one, are very important in curbing such acts? Yes.
Karen, I want to begin by saying that good governance,
yes,
is the backbone to any development, economic, social, and political. And this good governance cannot be if there is no peace, security, and justice. And I believe that the wheels of good governance and justice and peace can only be propelled by a new generation, a new crop of youth that are coming up, that are educated, that are knowledgeable, that need to push this country into believing that without good governance, we really cannot develop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we have said that youths are in the best capacity because in institutions of higher learning is where we find everyone. We interact without limits of, I mean, when someone asks me what is your name in campus, I just say Karen. They don't mind what is your second name, where are you from. I'm just Karen and I'm allowed to do that. Should youths take that to their advantage?
Karen, as we were discussing just before we started, I told you that one of the biggest challenges of good governance, peace and justice, is actually ethnicity.
Yes.
And not just ethnicity, but negative ethnicity. And how this ethnicity has been politicized, has been instrumentalized, and therefore there has been a lot of disorder. In institutions of higher learning, I always tell my students when I teach them, this is the only place where we are in hostels, where nobody even cares what you do in the hostels, what you eat in the hostels, who you relate with in the hostels.
Yes.
And so I believe that in such institutions, we actually need to cultivate the ideals of good governance. Why? Because you are Karen, I am Susan, he's Samuel, he's James, he's whoever else. Here, even if I tell you my name, you wouldn't bother to ask me, where do you come from? Because for the youth, there's actually today a very thin line between where you come from, because majority of the youth in this country have actually been born in urban areas, in Nairobi, in Mombasa, in Kisumu. So really the question of where you come from does not matter.
Yes.
And so for me, we can engage the youth in a conversation to remind them that good governance has to be the ideal that they should always seek. We should sensitize all of them so that we engage in a conversation. And these youth are going to educate the others that are outside there on the ideals and the beauty of good governance and why we need peace and security in this country.
Yes. Do you feel like subjects like the one you do teach political history, that such subjects are important, even whether I have come in here to be a journalist, I have come here to be a teacher, that such lessons are important for anyone who passes through campus, so that they are not the same like someone who has not gone to an institution of higher learning?
Karen, I still believe that there are two forms of education. One which is informal and the other that is formal.
Formal, yes.
The informal, of course, comes through the family, through the peers, through religious institutions, and so on and so forth. And those are the foundational, which are very important because they help us to build, to cultivate our attitudes.
Yes.
The formal sector, which are the universities, for example, I am happy that the CBC, the new curriculum, is actually taking care of educating the youth on criticality, creativity, being proactive, being perceptive, being intuitive. And so I believe at all levels, and regardless of the unit that you are taking, whether you're an engineer, whether you are a medical doctor, whether you're a historian, whether you're a musician, all of us should be taken through a curriculum that helps us to think more. And we already have the units that are supposed to be offered. What I think is that we need to revamp and to re-energize so that we are not simply giving knowledge for its own sake, but we are giving knowledge so that our students are not just cramming for exams. They are doing much more by engaging in real life activities at the institutions of higher learning, where we are engaged in arts, for example, where we are searching for talents, where in music, for example, we would actually invite our youth to do music that enhances peace and security, where we would invite our youth to do literature, to caricature, those that are not engaging in ideals of good governance. So I believe that at all levels, from first year to PhD, all of us should be engaged with a curriculum that allows all of us to be educated, to be sensitized, to be made aware on the importance of governance. I would encourage that before all of us leave university, and not just Kenyatta University, but all the public, private, and even institutions that offer vocational education, that all of us are educated in the ideals of good governance, either through a unit or where peace and justice, is mainstreamed through all our courses, so that if an engineer leaves the university, he or she understands that good governance is important wherever he's going. If it's a medical student that is going to operate on a patient, they understand the needs for good governance, for peace good and governance. Justice.
Yes, and I'm so glad today because Kenyatta University has provided such avenues. We are even having art students who are going to come here and present their art, and I think that is a way to get them to participate actively. That good governance is not going to just come from a history class, that we can actually do something with our hands. We can involve ourselves physically, mentally, creatively to be able to do such things. That is, of course, a big congratulations to Kenyatta University and doctors like you who are here who make sure that those things happen. Now, I want us to move a bit closer home to art and how art has been used to curb violent extremism. Just expound a little bit on that.
Thank you so much, Karen. I was a student at Kenyatta University a long time ago in the 1990s. And I remember that art played a very important role because students would engage in graffiti, in matatus and so on and so forth. Students would engage in fine art. Students of music would actually compose songs, that would promote peace and so on and so forth. And Kenyatta University is still going on with that legacy.
Yes.
And I believe, as I tell my students every day, that through education, through subjects like history, through subjects like music, engineering, medicine, and so on and so forth, we can actually mainstream some units, or some would stand alone, so that we can educate our students on values, norms, and ideals for a peaceful environment, either at the university or outside the university. When it comes to art, I am looking at popular culture. And I'm telling myself that through popular culture, our students can engage in music that would promote peace. I am looking at fine arts. I am looking at subjects like literature. I am looking at subjects like English, like literature. I am looking at, all the subjects, in terms of education and art. And I am convinced that through education, we can be able, one, to do a lot of sensitization
Yes.
and awareness creation. Number two, we can actually do a lot of advocacy and lobbying.
Yes.
Other institutions and agencies, whether government agencies, whether non-governmental agencies, international and regional,
Yeah.
source, we engage the youth in preaching peace and justice. So I think education and arts are very important because they help us get sensitized, they help us get aware of our happenings around, and that would happen very well at institutions of higher learning, whether they are universities or those that offer vocational education.
training, colleges,
Yes.
and everywhere. Do you feel like youth should take such opportunities and actually, like we were talking before the interview started, take this information back home? Or what, or you were asking me, what happens? We are here, we interact with people from all walks of life. Then I go back home and I cannot vote for someone who I clearly see has a vision. I'd rather vote for someone from my ethnic group. Where does the disconnect happen?
Karen, when we started, I told you that for me, I see two forms of education.
Yes.
That is the informal and the formal.
Yes.
At the university level, we take at most 10 years. But before that, we have already taken about 15 years of formation,
Yes.
which are very important.
True.
Because those are the foundational years where our attitudes are created.
Yes.
And I told you that agents of socialization are very important, and one of it is the family. The other one is the peers that we have around,
Yes.
and religious institutions. So, and I asked you the question, what happens that when we are in KU, for example,
Yes.
all of us are friends. It doesn't matter where you come from. But when you go home during times of elections, things change.
Yeah.
Because our politicians are not doing a good job. They are politicizing ethnicity.
Yeah.
Yet, ethnicity in itself is not a bad thing.
True.
I am very proud of where I was born.
True.
The challenge is where we politicize ethnicity and it becomes negative ethnicity.
Yeah.
And when it becomes negative ethnicity, then when our students go back home, they revert to their cocoons of where I am born.
Yes.
So what we need to do is actually to decolonize. Actually, I use the word decolonizing the mind
yes.
that Professor Ngugi wa Thiong'o talks about. So then the question is, how do we decolonize the minds of our young generation?
Exactly.
It is constantly and consistently talking to them about negative ethnicity and the ravages of negative ethnicity.
Yes.
Many of the students that we have currently in the universities, in institutions of higher learning, in one way or the other experienced the 2007-2008 post-election violence.
Yes.
So really we can begin from there by teaching them that negative ethnicity is actually detrimental to the economy of a country.
Yes.
And therefore, for that reason, our youth need not just to be taught, but consistently and constantly being reminded that negative ethnicity does not bring any good results.
Over and over and over again until we are decolonized.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Finally, as we conclude, curbing violent extremism. Why is it such an important conversation to have?
In the last a couple of years, perhaps 20 years, with especially the emergence of Al-Qaeda and Al-Shabaab, our youth, many of our youth have been recruited, have been radicalized, have become violent extremists. And here when I think about the youth, I am not really thinking about the UN definition of youth. Because I was telling the director that I don't know where I stand, whether I stand as a youth or I stand as an older person, or I don't know where I stand. But our youth have been recruited into militia groups, into vigilante groups, in terror groups, and so on and so forth. And I have a PhD student who has done an empirical research that shows that 60% of our youth are radicalized or become violent extremists because of economic factors. Many of the youth are not employed, yet they are educated. They have no food. They come from humble families. Another 20% have become radicalized, or they have become recruited into violent groups because of social factors.
Yeah.
Social factors including peer pressure,
Yeah.
social media. And there is also a small group that have become violent extremists or are being recruited or radicalized because of religious issues.
Yes.
The challenge I have is that we have given precedence
Yes.
to the religious factor. Yet the
Okay.
religious factor is just a gab that is used by a violent extremist to say that it's a religious war. It is not.
It is
It
not.
is an economic war
Yes.
that we need to deal with. And how do we deal with this economic war?
Yes.
It is ensuring that our youth are engaged.
Exactly.
And engaged in something that is productive.
Yeah.
It may not be the formal education, so that for me, I advocate for education that takes the youth to critically think about education, not just an end to itself,
Yes.
but that can help them eke a living even without getting a white collar job.
Yes.
So that that youth is educated to think critically.
Yes.
And by thinking critically, they are able to see that you must not be employed. You can engage in art. Just
Exactly.
yesterday,
Yes.
I saw a class 8, there was a caption in the newspaper that was talking about a lady who is engaging in miniature photography,
Yes.
which is a very good part of art.
Exactly.
And this miniature photography,
Yes.
this is a lady, a class 8 dropout, that is doing a very good job, and that can be done,
Exactly.
by our youth.
Yes.
So education that goes beyond formal education, white
Yes.
collar job as I would call it, but that helped to diversify the minds of our youth so
Yes.
that they can engage, they can become entrepreneurs,
Yes.
they can become artists and still earn a living and help their families.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we are looking to an education that is not just an end to itself, but
Yes.
provides all types of opportunities.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to wait for a salary. I can do my own thing and earn from it. Guys, I think you have seen pictures of the mini chips that has been going on. I think if you get one or two, we will show you guys of how youths out there are being creative and earning from it. Now I know we are out of time, so I just want you to talk. I know you will be here another time, probably next week, talking about youth and governance. So guys, she will be here. You will get time to ask all your questions. Any questions you will have, I'll forward them. You had an event in Nakuru. That was last week. What were you propagating in the event?
First,
Yes.
I want to take this opportunity to congratulate my students,
Yes.
Samuel Chirimba,
Yes.
Orina,
Yes.
and Nyabuto.
Yes.
Students that won a grant through a competition that
Yes.
was done during a students-led conference at Hekima University College.
Yes.
And the grant was given by Arigatu,
Yes.
a Japanese organization
Yes.
that funds projects that advocate for peace and justice.
Yes.
And currently, at that time, they were funding projects for students. So I must congratulate my students for that.
Yes. And Chirimba was here to represent them last week. Yes.
So the students won the grant,
Yes.
and they are calling it an idea lab.
Yes.
And the idea lab is to use education and art through visiting universities throughout the country. They will be going round. Of course, they will begin with campuses of
Yes.
Kenyatta University,
Yes.
because they are the ones that have provided that platform for
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
So last week we were in Nakuru to sensitize students, and we began by asking them, do they understand what violent extremism is about?
True.
Interestingly, many of our students understand what violent extremism is.
Yes.
Many of them, however, do not even know how you can be recruited.
Yes.
They do not even know who are the recruiters. So we were actually sensitizing them to begin to know and to understand that anybody can be a recruiter.
Yes.
They don't have a tag on their faces.
True.
So you wouldn't see somebody who looks like a recruiter
Like a recruiter for
yes, for
extremism.
extremism.
Yes.
So we were actually sensitizing our students on how do you actually judge what is in social media,
Yes.
what is in mainstream media that can make you an easy target
Yes.
to extremists, and how you deal with that, therefore.
Yes.
What kind of media do you need to engage in?
Yes.
So we did a lot of sensitization. Of course, we also went round recruiting students because we want students to become peace ambassadors.
Yes.
ambassadors that will be going round preaching peace,
Yes.
not just at the universities, but also in the slums,
Yes.
in the villages, to their parents to begin with,
Yes.
to their siblings, to their relatives, because that is where I believe we should begin.
We should begin
Thank
from
you.
there. Thank you so much. Finally, final words to a youth out there who is wondering, what do I do with my life right now? I have no job. I have applied to 100 and something job opportunities, haven't gotten one. Final words to them as we get to the artists who are actually going to present their art today.
To the youth, I always say the sky is not the limit.
Yes.
Even the sky should not be the limit. Try as much as you can. Be smart. Work hard. But most importantly,
Yeah.
engage positively.
Yes.
And through that, if you associate with the right people, if you accept to become, to be mentored,
Yes.
I can tell you that you will go far. Become creative, do whatever it takes, and try as much as you can. Do not give up. There is still hope outside there.
Yeah.
There are still very many jobs outside there. Not the white collar jobs, but jobs that can be created by you and not by anybody else.
Exactly.
Thank
You so much, guys. You have heard it from the horse's mouth. I do not want to add to that. I do not want to dilute anything. We are the backbone of this country. If we get it right, and we have been here, we have seen 2007. If we get it right as the youth, we will get it right economically for this country. Thank you very much, Dr. Susan, for visiting us today. I really cannot wait. I am probably not the one who is going to host you next time, but I'm looking forward to that conversation. Thank you so much, guys. We will take a very short break. When we come back, we will continue with Art and Culture Monday. We still have a lot lined up for you artists. We have culture stories. We have a lot. Just do not go anywhere.